Hello everyone, this is Diane, and I just finished making a junk journal for a swap on Junk Journal Junkies. It's a Newsworthy swap with a typography theme. I'm going to close my craft room door because I forgot to do that. Sorry about that. I didn't want you to hear my husband's TV. So I have a lot of papers that went with the typography theme, so I figured I had to do this and use up some of those papers, and it sounded really fun. I just finished this, and I had alcohol inked my eyelets, so excuse my hands. I cannot wash that off. I hope it comes off by morning because I have to go to church tomorrow. So I used a variety of papers, some Tim Holtz and other papers that I've had, and I couldn't even name all the collections. And it's pretty neutral, brown, vintagey. And to inject some color, I used cut aparts from this Graphic 45 typography pad. I didn't use the papers themselves, but the cutouts are throughout the book. So it's pretty big. Well, at least the spine is big. The book itself is 5 by 7.5. It has 3 signatures as required, and each signature has 10 folded pages. But they ended up pretty fat, so I made a 3-inch spine, which might be bigger than I need, but you'll see when I take this off, it pops right open. I didn't put a bead dangle on it, but I put 2 eyelets through there and some seam binding to make it look pretty. I love the paper that I used on the spine. It's a Tim Holtz heavy duty paper, and then there's a cardstock inside, and in between is Tyvek, so it should be pretty sturdy. It's a vintage book with a brown cover, and I put photo or metal corners on the edges because of at least the front was a little bit frayed. The back was fine, but I put them on the back too, just to make it match. And I Mod Podged some papers on, and used some Tim Holtz stickers there to spell out the word journal, and added a flower. There's a hitch fastener here, if I can get it undone. There we go. And some baker's twine. I Mod Podged on the front also, or on the inside. It's an old Graphic 45 from the Communique collection. So here's the first signature. Now I coffee dyed the papers, and some of the papers were the glossy coated papers, and I didn't know how they would be affected by coffee dyeing and then being put in the oven. But actually it's pretty neat. I don't know if you can tell on this one because it's covered up some of it, but the images on the front are kind of embossed on the back from the process that I did. So there are a couple of papers at least that have that effect on it. So anyway, this has one of the Graphic 45 tags. I made tabs on each of the signatures, and they're black paper with writing on them. So I had so many things that would go with the typography theme. I had a lot of fun. This one looks like typewriter keys, and then this is a Tim Holtz scrap with some lined coffee dyed paper for journaling. I tried to have a lot of journaling in here. I did a lot of work on this. There's a lot of sewing. This one, the cover pages for each of the signatures are just zigzag stitched around the edges, just for effect. This is a tuck spot with one of the cutouts from Graphic 45. And I used some washi tape throughout. So there's a lot of sewing, a lot of stamping, and quite a bit of washi tape. This is a little bag. This is one of the cut aparts. I glued them back to back and put one of the, I forgot what they're called, but it's a little pin with a hook on it, or a circle on it. Stuck that in there as a little pull, and then this is just a tag with seam binding. And this one is, these are Tim Holtz brads that I bought. This is what they look like. The brads are empty. They have stickers, and then they have the epoxy thing to stick on them, so you make your own. And several of them had a typography look to them, so I used some of those brads throughout the book. There's some of the stamping that I did, and this is just some scraps glued on. This is a tuck spot. It's a little ticket and a little piece of ribbon. Piece of, what do you call that? Yeah, that kind of paper. And I used my Graphic 45 alphabet stamp that I love. I don't use it enough, but I stamped the word story. I think I used it one other time in this book. And this is a doily I cut with a Martha Stewart doily punch. And I used this little paper clip to stick this quote card on there. Another little bag with a tag and Graphic 45 card. I stamped this alphabet stamp on there. Oh, this is supposed to have a coffee dyed index card in it. I took it out as I was stitching the signatures in, and that one didn't make it back in, but I'll make sure it gets in there. I just used an assortment of alphabet cutouts that I had and glued on the word breathe. There's a stamp. And the Graphic 45 paper has a lot of quotes that use the graphics, the typography type of stuff. So there's a lot of quotes in here. Some more washi tape. Some Tim Holtz tickets. I didn't have the word laugh on the Tim Holtz ticket, so I did live, love, and giggle. Here's one of the cards that has some journaling on the back. A little banner with a Scrabble tile on there. This is a little brown bag, lunch bag. Tim Holtz paper cut into a tag with journaling. And I have some of this paper with typewriter buttons on it, tabs, and I cut out matching size circles and used them for pull tabs for some of my tags. This is from a greeting card. I used the little Tim Holtz words, sticker words, and stuck on Inspire Possibility. And there's a ticket there that I just stamped on, and it tucks in there. It's a banner cut from a book. Journaling card says pro and con. More stitching around there. And I probably didn't need to make it 3 inches because there's a lot of space between the signatures, but it's so fat, and there'll be room for adding more. Here's a second signature. A stamp there. And I stitched on some miscellaneous pieces to make a little tuck spot up here for a 7 Gypsies tag. I love this Tim Holtz paper here. Now these cards are a little bit close in size for this book, but it works. Kind of big. But I used this paper and put journaling on the back. Another of those tab pulls that I cut out of the paper. These were cut out of a different paper. This one. I spell out the word fun. Washi tape. More tidbits that are, stitched together to form a tuck spot. With another quote card. Stamp. This is not a tuck spot, I just glued it on there. The definition of typography. And then there's another cutout with this thing glued in between, a copy dyed time card. This paper I used a border punch on, typewriter stamp. This is just a little flap. Laugh Often ticket that's stapled on. And I used one of my Stampin' Up! Stamp sets. I love it. It's called Collage Alphabet, I think. It's an old one. Stamped Remember. This one has some of these circles cut out and glued randomly on the page. You can journal around those things. And then here's another little bag with a ticket or a tag for journaling on the back, and it has one of the Tim Holtz brads and a card in there. This is a banner and one of the cutout typewriter keys, and a paper clip is holding this card in there. This is stitched on as a tuck spot for a journaling card. A list page. And this one has a sheet of coffee dyed paper folded up. It says write your story. So I put a piece of note paper in there to write your story. This one just has a paper clip holding a tag, a Tim Holtz sticker that spells out family, and the third signature. It's another one of those 7 Gypsies tickets in a pocket, library pocket that I made. This one's supposed to have a card in there too, so they will have their cards in them. This is a little piece of vellum that says you're just my type. There's one of the Tim Holtz brads. Just a banner and a typewriter key. This is from Communique, also Graphic 45, an old set called Communique. A tag that says dream, a wish your heart makes, and there's room to write there. And here's the other thing I used this alphabet for. It just says notes. I used my border punch that looks like notebook paper torn out. I love that border punch. Alphabet washi tape. This is a stamped image that I cut out and glued on, and it says remember this. This is a piece of Stampin' Up! Paper that looks like newsprint. This is a card, journaling card, paper clipped to this. This is also a doily made with the Martha Stewart doily punch, and I cut it out of coffee dyed paper. This is Stampin' Up! Paper from Soho Subway, I think is what it was. I'm not sure. It might not be Soho Subway. And I took some coffee dyed notebook paper and just tore some scraps and glued it on there for journaling. There's journaling in there. This is a Tim Holtz cutoff. And an alphabet stamped on there. A tag, coffee dyed. Some more stamps. These are some pieces that were stitched together and stitched on as a pocket and a little Tim Holtz brad. A tag with an index card on the back. Another banner with a Scrabble tile. And this is one of the Martha Stewart doilies that I glued on the top instead of on the side, and it folds around to that side too. And on the back is a place they can write their name. I think they'd have to use a Sharpie because I Mod Podged it and then my signature and the date. And there it is. I hope that whoever gets this really likes it. I had a lot of fun making it. Can't wait to see what I get in return. So I'm really having fun with these journal swaps. And I hope that you enjoy seeing what I've made. Thanks.